Aloha kako, Mike here again for Kia'i Conversations. Here we have another Kia'i going to have a talk with us. So I'll let her introduce herself and let everyone know where you're from, before living.
So my name is Jamie Siangcoi. I lived here about 4.5 years. I moved here from Charleston, South Carolina, but I'm originally from upstate New York.
So you spoke a little bit earlier, told me you're not Kanaka, you're not Hawaiian and stuff. So as someone who's not Kanaka, what inspired you to join the movement?
So when I moved here, it was right after the church shooting in Charleston, almost 5 years ago. I had been working with Black Lives Matter, Copwatch, Project South, so I'd really found a heart for activism. And right after I moved here, pretty much fresh off the plane, I was driving through Mahalo and I saw a protest going on. Basically, what they were doing, they were sweeping the houses. And at the time, I didn't realize that there were problems in Hawaii. I was still under it's paradise. I just moved to paradise, and then I started getting more involved and trying to understand Hawaiian issues. And then I met my wife, and here we are.
So when you talk about Black Lives Matter, in what ways is that movement similar to this Hawaiian movement?
A lot of it is against the state. So it's asking for recognition, not necessarily federal recognition, but they're like, we're here, we have issues in our communities, and we need, your patience, your legislation, we need funding, we need all these things, and we're being ignored. So there's a lot of similarities into the purpose behind that.
Okay. So what would you say is different about it as far as, the challenges and, how they handle their issues?
So the biggest difference I would have to say would be the state response. I know when they arrested the kupuna on the mountain, there was a huge outcry and everyone was like, what are you doing? But when there's an issue, when a Black Lives Matter issue happens, when a cop shoots somebody on video, there's not that same outrage. People don't seem to care as much. So that's a major difference. In terms of the movements themselves, it seems easier for Hawaiians to gather together because the area is small. And on the continent, Black people are spread out all over. So it's harder to be cohesive, and what they're asking for is very different too. The Hawaiians are asking, we want our land back. We want, we want to be Hawaiian in Hawaiian, but being African, part of the African diaspora, we don't have that. We don't have that connection to that land. We don't have those same ceremonies. We don't have the ole and the aha and the protocol and all that. So we don't have those unifying activity, and I don't want to use activities because that sounds, but we don't have those ceremonies to be able to unite,
bring everyone together and all that. And I think I had this conversation with my girlfriend a week or two ago, talking about people on the mainland, America, let's say. A lot of people there, European, descent, they're all disconnected from their culture, and I think that's a thing that kind of separates us from them, and why people have such a hard time understanding Hawaiians and the culture when they come down here, because they don't understand that we have our land here, we're in our land, and we can connect with that. So if you're on the mainland and the Irish or something, and you live in the mainland, you're not surrounded by a bunch of Irish people to practice your culture and do all those things. So I think that's why people have a really hard time connecting. So just like how you said, people up there, as far as with Black Lives Matter and all that, they don't have that to connect to, so it makes it really hard. And that's what I was gonna ask. What makes you think? Why do you think people aren't so outraged as they are here? Do you think that's why? Is this because of that?
I think the culture is a big one.
Disconnection.
And it's the space. I mean, there's so many thousand miles between the continent and Hawaii that on the continent they can ignore, basically. They can choose to ignore Hawaiian issues because they're so far, but Black Lives Matter issues are right in their face, and they're reacting negatively. And I feel like if we were closer to the continent, there might be some of that same background.
Right, okay, I get that, yeah.
And the Hawaiian culture's been romanticized with, the leis and the hula, and it's beautiful and it's paradise. So that kind of helps that unconscious biasness, Hawaii is paradise and Black people are slaves. So, and even after hundreds of years, those mentalities are still there.
Exactly, right. So just now thinking about the Hawaiian movement, how would you characterize this movement that we have here today? Like if you had to put a name to it or anything like that.
Well, I do like the Together We Rise. I have very much like that because it is taking all of the Hawaiians, no matter where you fall economically, socially, it doesn't matter, like, and it's very welcoming.
So the unity and the inclusivity of it all.
Very much so.
So what has this movement taught you personally?
I need to work on my Kapu Aloha.
I think we all need to though, you know, so I don't think you're alone on that. Don't feel alone there.
A whole lot. And I struggle with that a lot. I see, like, when I watched them arresting Mahalo, like, I have a hard time with that because I have a mix of Malcolm X and MLK in me. Okay. So, and I have been taught, you know, a riot is the language of the unheard. So to see everybody just willing to sit is something that I feel I need to work better.
Different,
better.
yeah.
It's very, very different. But that goes back to the state response too. I mean, in both situations, they come dressed for war, but they're way more quick to use violence
in the States.
Yeah, in the States
right.
than they are here. Like you could see it in the pictures. Like just watching the cops' eyes here, it's hurting them because that's their community. But on the continent, they have a separation that they don't see that, and they don't see the people. They just see
the human being behind, you know, what they're trying to do.
That makes it very, very different.
Wow, yeah. Didn't think about that. That's a good point. So, why do you think this movement is happening, like, from your perspective? Like, most people would agree that Mauna Kea sparked everything that's happening right now, but what do you think is the momentum behind that event? Like, I would say, like, maybe as an example, you know, the overthrow of the government, so people are angry about that. Like, you know, what do you think is, like, pushing behind Mauna Kea?
I think it's a mixture of time and technology, because even I know for a fact people have been protesting those telescopes all along, but we didn't have the social media that we have now. It wasn't as easy to put a call out and be like, we need you to come, as it, you know, 30 years ago when we didn't have the internet, you couldn't do that. You know, you had to make phone calls and send letters. It took time. And I think the world is just in a place where every indigenous, aboriginal, all people are just tired of constantly being oppressed in so many areas. There's 36 people in the world that have more money than everybody else combined, and that kind of inequity just can't go on anymore.
Right, I understand that. So, we're coming back to Kapolo again. So what does that mean to you? What does Kapolo mean to you?
Thinking before I speak, which is why I'm not good at it. But responding, a lot of it is in the response, because there's always going to be people that are attacking or people that are, you know, trying to kill whatever, and it's how you respond. It's responding with the love and the patience and taking the time with people instead of just writing them off.
Right, and I think that's exactly why we're still holding space on Mauna Kea right now, because, you know, our people's response to the police enforcement up there, like, if our people were to get violent, of course, the response is going to be violent from police. So, like how you said, when people sit down, like, you can't respond to that. Like, police don't know how to respond to that kind of action. You know, how do you respond to someone that's being peaceful? You know?
Right.
And again, like you said, it's also their community members. Like, the people standing up there are their neighbors and such, you know? So it's like, it makes it really hard on people because we're all connected.
I think it's the community that makes a huge difference, because if you look at, like, Colin Kaepernick's protest, I mean, all he did was sit down, and he's been vilified in every area, kicked out of the NFL. What is the difference between his nonviolent protest and the one at the mountain? I mean, he did his, he asked for military input on it, and they're still hating on him over a flag. And when he's actually asking for, can you stop killing us? That's all he's asking for. And I just don't, there's a huge difference there.
Right, no, yeah, that's a good thing to point out, and I wouldn't know exactly what the difference is besides, you know, millions of people on the continent versus over here. It's more of a small community. Like you said, there's a disconnect from there to here. We're 1,000 miles away, where not as much people know about what's happening here, you know, as up there, you know, someone like Colin Kaepernick, who's, you know, he's known throughout the U.S. for playing football and all that. He's pretty, you know, he's a familiar face, so of course he's going to bring a lot more response. I think that might be part of the difference with that, right? So, what do you think is the biggest challenge facing the Hawaiian people?
Housing. Housing would be my biggest. Where I live, within a mile, they're putting 4 new towers. A 2-bedroom is going for $800,000 and a 3-bedroom for $2 million. Who that lives here, that works here, can afford that, no matter how much? The fact that I just learned today, and I won't throw that community under the bus because I understand that there is a community that is getting land in Hawaii due to the U.S. bombing them. And I'm not hating on them for getting land, but why are they getting land before the Hawaiians? This is their land. They should have. There's people dying on the list waiting for a house, and I disagree with that. And I already know, Black people aren't getting their 40 acres in a mule, so maybe we got a better chance here of starting something.
Right, you would think, right?
Yeah, hopefully.
So do you think the government cares about Hawaiian people?
I don't think the government cares about anybody but themselves and those who have the money. So it comes down to money. That's every single time. Money is the equalizer for them. If you have money, it doesn't matter what nationality you are. If you don't, then you just really don't count. We're just tools, basically. Right. It doesn't matter whether we're Hawaiian, Black, Micronesian. I mean, we're just a means to an end for them.
So if there was any one issue you could solve immediately, what would it be as far as the Hawaiian issues go?
Starting with housing and the cost of living. I mean, the nickel and diming of locals is just out of control. Raising parking rates all the time. The only people that affects is us. The constant, increasing our car registrations. Everything goes up and up and up, but our wages don't keep up with that. And I mean, most of us are working 2 or 3 jobs just to survive. We're waiting on these people that are coming on vacation, treating us like garbage to begin with, and then we can't even afford to live well in the area that we call home.
It's funny you bring up car registration. I just got my registration for my truck today. $520.
I just saw mine's due at the end of the month, and we were like, oh god, there's another for 2 cars. There's another $600.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. It used to be like $350 or something, and it's raised to $500. Like, I'm like, why? And our roads are in terrible shape. And I don't know. So, you might be running for politics.
Too many skeletons.
Better watch out. So, what do you think is the most misunderstood or most mischaracterized part of the movement?
That it's solely focused on TNT. Like you said, it was the spark. But have we seen with the windmills or the wind turbines in Mahalo? It's so much more than that. I mean, just being at the Capitol the other day and watching the protocols and the classes and the education and trying to teach people where the public access room is and how our legislative works. And people showing up now at city council meetings, coming out and making their voice heard. I think that's the biggest thing, and I don't think a lot of people are seeing that. They're just looking at it. The people on the other side, they're just choosing, it's only about TNT. It's all they care about, and it's so much more than that.
Okay, so if you had someone pro TNT or on the other side of the movement in front of you, what would you say to them?
I would talk to them. I would usually find out where they're from. People aren't going to care until they know you care. So, why do they hold that position? How will it directly benefit or hurt them, as opposed to how it will directly benefit or hurt Native Hawaiians?
Okay. So, as a Kia'i, we're going to call you but you're a Kia'i now. You're not from here. What do you think is the best way someone can contribute to this movement?
Well, for me personally, one of the things I learned in Black Lives Matter was don't talk over the people who have the dog in the fight. It was never appropriate for an ally to come into a Black Lives Matter meeting and say, this is how we should do this is what we should do. So for me, it's keeping my voice down for the most part, except for something like this, but like in a leadership meeting or anything, I would never raise my voice. It's listening to the leaders and letting them lead and,
supporting from the back.
Yeah, so basically for me, it's whatever. If you call me and you say, hey, it's 8 o'clock at night and there's a march tomorrow, you want to come help make lays at the palace, I'm going to show up. Or, they're holding space in Mahalo, can you be there? Or there's parents going to, Kahuku, can you babysit their kids? It's just doing whatever needs to be done to help those who have more of a stake in it do their part. And then helping people who are just getting into it to find their spot too. basically giving everyone their own voice.
So that's pretty much it. Personally from me, I want to say mahalo to you as someone who's not kanaka, for fighting with us and standing with us. To me, that's a big deal. I'm sure a lot of other people feel the same way. I don't want to speak for other people, but it's a very big deal. So how you say, when you don't necessarily have a dog in the fight, you know, but like, you know, you're standing with us and you understand the fight and you're helping along, and that's huge for me, and again probably for other people. So big mahalo to you.
It goes back to that together we rise. So we're all fighting the same state, so we're better off doing it together than separately.
Right. Is there anything you want to say to everyone that's
Thanks
watching?
for having me. Thanks for all the spaces that I have been invited in and accepted in, and all the hugs and all the thank yous. I have enjoyed every moment.
One more thing I'm going to throw at you. I didn't tell you about this, but someone had told me this and I just remembered it. Is there a question you'd want to ask someone on a future interview? A question that I don't go over? Is there something you would like to know?
What vision they see, what they want to see out of this movement.
Like an end game?
Yeah, well, I don't think it's ever going to be an end game, because there's always going to be a state to have to fight against, unless, you know, they give back the Hawaiian country.
Right.
But as long as there's an issue, there's always going to be. So I guess what they want to see as goals, even if they're movable goals.
Okay.
You know, so say housing is the big thing, and somehow we magically get that solved. What do you want to see happen after that? Like, what are the overarching goals?
Okay, right on. So I'll remember to ask that next time. So again, mahalo to Jamie. And thanks everyone for watching. Please subscribe and like on the YouTube so you don't miss future episodes. And we'll see you guys on the next one. Mahalo.